Hi there, my name is Larissa, and I'm the founder of Om Toronto Meditation, Healing Arts, Yoga, and Workshop Center. And the reason that I'm starting a video series, as nervous as it makes me to be seen and heard and possibly wrong, is because I know that in my time studying, I've learned a lot of information that can be of benefit to people. And so my hope is that with sharing this information, that it'll go to someone who needs it or someone who wants to learn something interesting that I might have learned already from some part or some perspective. And so I welcome you guys as you're watching to send in questions, make comments about things that you'd like more information about. And if I have that information or if I can find that information, I'll be happy to share it with you. Some of the things that I love and are really important to me are learning, sharing information, and community. And so my hope is that this will start a global community where we start to talk about illness and stresses and those question mark things that you're experiencing where you just don't know how to move through it, or you don't know the next step for you. Something that I see a lot of in my practice is clients will come in and they'll have an illness or an ailment that they've approached it from many different angles, and they'll have approached it medically, sometimes psychosomatically, which is looking at stresses in their lives and how that impacts physical ailments or physical discomfort in the body. They might have approached it through nutrition, and they just can't seem to find the thing that helps them transform. So I'm also a DeMartini method facilitator, and with that work, what we look at is memories that are stored and associations that are stored, or moments that we hold on to, that can actually have an impact on us physically, mentally, emotionally. And so if you guys have questions about things that you're stuck on, I love this. This is like my playground of understanding just how the brain works and how we make these associations. And so that's sort of my intro. But for the first video, excuse me, I want to talk to you about happiness. I remember when I was married and I said to my spouse, what would you like to have out of life? Like, as you think about your ultimate goal in life, what is it that you want to be experiencing? And their answer was happiness. And I remember thinking, like, what is happiness? How do you define that? How do you experience it? And so I said, what does that mean to you? And they said, I don't know. I just want to be happy. And so through my training, what I've learned is that happiness is an emotion that can be elicited. So if you think about, for the moment right now, if you just go back to a moment where you felt that you were really happy, where you felt elated or ecstatic or joyful, we can go back to that moment and elicit the memory in our brain, and then we'll get what's called a neurotransmitter bath, where the memory triggers a physiological response. And so we can feel happy just by thinking of that time that we were joyful or happy. So to have that as a life goal, like, you could do that right now. You could do that in this moment. And it doesn't last for forever, but if you wanted to, you could keep eliciting that. The drawback to that is that it's not a present state. It's a memory or a moment that you're pulling up. And so you're not actually learning how to cope and be not just okay in the moment, but thriving in the moment. And so it can be really helpful to understand that happiness is just a neurotransmitter bath. It's not an ultimate goal to have. We have to have the balance in things. And so this reminds me of one of Buddha's teachings. And so from what we know, and what you're taught when studying Buddha's teachings is that whether you are in a moment of extreme joy or a moment of extreme sadness, both are categorized as suffering. And the reason for that is that there's a polarity. So whether it's extreme joy over here, or I guess we put suffering over here, so extreme suffering over here or extreme joy over here, you're not in the balanced moment. And the balanced moment is where we're most in tune with our intuition. We're closest to the transcendent state, the state of love and grace. And so if you're in a polarity, what happens is you're pulled in one direction or the other, and you're denying half of a moment, half of a memory. And so, because what happens is when we store a memory, we also store the anti-trait of that memory. And in this teaching, so what I'm referring to is the DeMartini method in this part of the teaching with the polarities and the transcendent state. And so in this teaching, what we look at is when you're in a polarized state, what are the opposites of that? What are the benefits of these scenarios? And we go through and start to understand that we don't have to be happy all the time. That's not the ultimate goal. Like sometimes someone will be in depression and they just want to be happy. Or, we don't really have the state of where we're happy and we're like, oh, I just want to be depressed. I just want to feel crappy for a day. But what does happen is because we're highly polarized, we'll create an event that brings us down and brings us down into center. It brings us back into balance. So we might think that we're moving from happiness to tragedy, but what's happening is there's actually a balancing in that moment. And so we want to be living in that balance. It doesn't mean we don't experience joy and sadness. It means that we don't live in joy and sadness. We don't get stuck there, because that's when we start to get more and more polarized, where we have stories running and we think that that person did us wrong, or if only things had happened differently, we would be better. And so it's understanding that every moment, everything that's happening in our life is happening to bring us into balance. So whether that's physical illness or ailments, whether that's mental struggle that we're having, anything around mental health, whether that's just a family conflict that we can't let go of, if we can bring that into balance, if we can learn to see the benefits of our perceived drawbacks or our perceived struggles, and we can start to see the drawbacks of our perceived joys and happiness, we can start to exist in a much more present state where we can create real change in our lives, rather than just being dragged back and forth between the stories that we have running. So that's just the first video for today. If you have any questions, if you have any anything you'd like to share, add, ask, please feel free to leave that in the comments below. And thank you for watching. I hope that this was meaningful for you, and if not, cool. Come back and watch the next video. Maybe you'll find something there. I hope you have a great day and you get exactly what you need today. Thank you.